the lesson of the day is the two different journals. You're answering your question, what are the journals? And the difference between them? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the way the journals were created was that we first would like somebody to have building the muscle of a daily exercise, and that's the daily asking journal. And in the daily asking journal, when you open to the first page, it's set up very simply as a 5 to 10 minute exercise, preferably done the night before. Although some people are morning people with their cup of tea or coffee, and they would prefer to get up early and open their book to the page. I tend to do it in the morning, although the night before I have my journal open, so if there's something, I'm always jotting it down. I leave my journal open to the page, so as I walk by, and I also leave it in a strategic place that, like, I keep mine. I have a desk in my closet in North Carolina, and I keep it open there because I know that I'm going to go to bed and be in my closet for a minute. And so I jot a few things down, and then I know the first thing in the morning after I shower, I'll be in my closet again before I really start my day. So I jot a few more things down, and then I take my journal forward into the kitchen with me. So it stays open there, and I already have some words that are being jotted down. The idea is to build a muscle of continual asking, and that would be a daily thing. So we set the journal up. People, the intention of it before the absolute first thought was when my clients and friends would say, how do you journal? What is this journaling? It's kind of like when somebody says, how do you pray? So I said, well, these are the components that I include. And that's why this used to be, before it was bound, it was just a loose leaf paper and that we printed and we handed it to the Miracle Group members and clients and friends. So it started out with, you put the date on the top. I suggest to also put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next to it, the day of the week. And it starts with I am grateful for. And that's a reminder that the first thing in the morning, that when we wake up, we should be able to come up with 4 or 5 things or more that we're just happy for, that we start the day. And it can be your pillow, it can be your bed, it can be your clothing, it can be relaxation, it can be God, people around you. So what I usually do is, I know I'm waking up for that day and I'm going to have lunch with a friend, or I'm going to go to school and there might be a professor or whatever. And I list the people from that day that I'm praying over, that I have great gratitude for. So that's the beginning box, and that is I'm grateful for. It can be as simple as your fingernails or nail polish if you're going to get your fingernails done that day. It's something that is the top of your head, and the idea is, if you do this 365 days of the year and you list 5 to 10 things, you have a lot of gratitude at the end of the year. So you're just jotting anything in the box. Then you go to the second box, and the second box is I ask with intention for. And that box is your God box. That box is on the left-hand side of the page, and if you look lower on the right-hand bottom corner, you've got what we call your sticky note box with 5 different lines. That sticky note, and you can actually use a sticky note if you'd prefer, that sticky note or 5 line items for the day are your 5 line items. And the idea with those 5 line items are, what can I do today to make each of those 5 simple little things that I can do myself a 10-star experience. So I ask for intention for our big things, like our million plus received joy business, increased sales to this number of Amazon for books. That's where we're putting our 500 book reviews. Those are the big things. Those are the things you're handing over to the universe. Those are 3 more books finished ASAP. Those are huge things I'm handing over to the universe. Simultaneously, right kind of to the right-hand corner of that, lower right-hand corner, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I'm doing today. That's having lunch with a friend named Helen, and we're going to have a beautiful time going over her. That we call it our focused actions. That 5, and those focused actions are something that we know that we can do ourselves. I can drive to the restaurant, I can pay for the lunch, and I can sit my hinder down and eat. Okay, I can do those steps. Those are absolute Carissa little things. The second thing I probably will have on that list is we're going to type a chapter of Connect to the Light today, Sylvia and I. That is an absolute Carissa thing. Now, the next thing I can write on that list is grocery shopping. So it can be as simple as stopping at the post office. These are absolute focused line items that Carissa herself can do. Small little things. All my big stuff is put on the God column of I ask with intention for. Then right next to I ask with intention for, you'll see a little box that says why. So just like my chocolate chip story that I give over and over, where the kids came to me at 11 o'clock at night and asked for $20 in my car, and they want to go out and buy chocolate. And the first part of me would say no, although once they said it was for Father's Day for chocolate chip cookies the next morning, I absolutely said yes. So we fill in the why we're asking for the $1 million Receive Joy business. So Sylvie, give some of the whys, what you would fill in for the whys for that. Why would you like this business?
So because it gives me purpose, and it's for God's kingdom and to bring light to myself and others, and it fulfills absolutely my mission statement. And
it's fun.
And I deserve it. I'm worthy to have this business, exactly to being set up as I intend my work life to be, in contrast to being an employee for someone else.
Okay, so do you see now the why made this $1 million Receive Joy business very compelling? It made it personal. It told us what type of jacket we want. We want 2 sleeves, we want pockets, we want it waterproof, we want it women's, we want it size small. And that's the example in the book, is that we put parameters around the why personalized it in front of God. So all of a sudden, if I say, for my sake, God, I start that why column every single day with, for my sake. Why all this? Why I'm asking the universe and you, God, for things is for my sake. Let's be honest. And it makes my life enjoyable, and it makes my life fun, and it gives, like Sylvie said, purpose. It excites me to wake up in the morning. That's why I have this list of intentions. So that's the why. And my sister's group, she has a ladies' Bible study, and she hands out those large sticky notes that have lines on them. And so the ladies actually, in their Bible study, when they get together once a week, when they fill out their little why page, they actually take a whole sticky note and fill out, let's say if they have 4 things they're praying to God for, or asking with intention is the words we use for, they will put a whole sticky note for their why it's so important, why that prayer is important to them. So that's the why column. And so then you will see my gains and miracles created on the lower left-hand box. And that is simply for the real miracles. In that box, our MTM group is one of the things I've listed. It was a miracle. We went to JT Fox, and Sylvie and I had an intentional asking, and that focused asking that we had was that we'd come out of that JT Fox that we were investing these 4 days in with friends, and we would have purpose and something, create something from those 4 days that we would take forward in our life. Then God would come along in that group, and we would feel fulfilled that we invested 4 days of our life. And so when MTM came out of that, we were able to then put MTM under my gains and miracles created. I also had a little emerald bracelet wash up on my Emerald Beach shore, Emerald Isle house the other week. And so I put down an emerald bracelet because I had been I asked with intention for treasure, because my brother said, I'd love to be a treasure finder. I said, that's wonderful. We're treasure finders. And then I got the bracelet, so I put that. I got a brush for Mother's Day, and the only thing I asked for Mother's Day, I said, Dear God, The one thing I'm asking for is a new hairbrush, this exact brand, this exact brush. And when I came and flew home and walked in the door, and my kids were in a different state, I was in Colorado, they were here in Naples, and the only thing on the table for me on Mother's Day, when I walked in on Mother's Day, was a pink hairbrush with a bow on it with flowers.
Wow.
Okay, so that's pretty intentional asking. I have 3 children. I have one gift, exactly what I asked for. And so that then went into my Gains and Miracles Created, and all as simple as pink hairbrush. Do you see how simple that opens a whole story? I have pictures taped in. So it's cute because I saw this Band-Aid that fell off my daughter, and I cut out the face on the Band-Aid, and it was a Band-Aid it was Bert and Ernie from the Sesame Street. And I said, oh my goodness, that is such a miracle story. So I taped the Band-Aid, I cut out the face, and I taped it in my Gains. And why was that a gain? Because 6 or 7 years ago, my sister, I was visiting my sister in California, and her daughter, I said, I'm going to bring my girls with me. What are your kids doing? She said, well, my oldest daughter will be at a camp while you're here. And I said, well, how about we send Maddie with her to camp? And my sister said, well, this is a very specialty camp. It was the top student of the graduating class of all the different high schools in Northern California. And it's a scholarship thing. It costs, money. They're doing it at the university. It's for leadership and honor society. And I said to my sister, and it's a good thing I didn't know anything about any of this. I just said, hey, will you just call them up and say, you got your sister's kid there and she's going to come to the camp with her? I'm thinking they're going down the street, right? So my sister says to me, sure. So she calls up the camp, the society, the honor society, and says, there's a huge charity organization. And she calls up and says, I have another student that is my niece and she would like to join. Is there any way at all that you have any spots left in this 500 kid camp from around Northern California? And she says, well, there's only one spot left. And that one spot is for a student that would travel the farthest for the honor to be in this program.
Wow.
You know where I'm sitting, right? In Naples, Florida. And this is San Francisco. This was in Sacramento University they went. So guess who is the farthest student?
Yeah, your daughter.
My daughter. Full ride scholarship for the weekend. My daughter has no idea where she's going, right? I'm just like, hey, grab your suitcase. You're going with your cousin to camp, right? So my daughter doesn't even know what. They're like, bring a business outfit and all this. And she's like, Mom, what kind of camp is this, right? I'm like, oh, just go, just go. She has the best time of her life, right? Zero expectation, just love. What can I do a little bit different? So the difference is, it's fine. The difference is that we would just simply do something like laugh more, write it down, journal, focus and finish. They're just little ideas. Any little idea you have. I have here, plan ahead. And then I have write everything down. That's one of mine. Script my life is in one of my columns. Here is just organize. Surrender is one of my columns. Gratitude, always. Happiness, smile more. Love people. It can be any suggestion you have. It's to yourself. And then the next column is I have fun and celebrate. The next box, celebrate this day by. Always do one little thing. It can be go out to dinner with a friend. It could be having my favorite coffee like you did the other day when we were on anything that you know you did something for you that made you smile. Anything. And then in the very bottom, you have check the boxes. So we check the boxes. I read my Bible. I am connected to God. I meditated for 15 minutes. I edited my words and I prayed. And then in the right-hand corner is a little box where it says second the motion. First you initial your page and you also have an initial of somebody else. And that could be a friend that you get together with once a week and they sign every page in your book with just their one initial or a check mark or something, thumbprint, anything. The idea is that a second person has said, I cheer you on. I connect my battery to your batteries. I believe in you. And it's that, like we did yesterday when we voted, we all said I, and then somebody else said I. that became the team. So this page becomes a team, and that's why we do suggest that you have a prayer partner. And it can be one of us, it can be a person that you have in your life. The idea is that once a week you share energy, you share, and in that sharing, that's why we created this miracle group. That the group that we have, and our MTM should be part of the sharing that's going on. That's our miracle group. So that gives you an idea of, and you read your blessing of the day on the top that's in print. In the back of the book, there's some sheets, if you notice, that are blank pages that have 3 categories on them. I declare that with a blank. My parameters are, and then why I want it. So anything big, Hattie. So let's take one of your big goals, like water charity or pure water or education in Africa. And I declare that the town of blah, blah, blah has a beautiful school and a clean well. Okay? So you can pick that out, and then you say, what would your parameters be to make that happen? You could, number 1, your parameters would be that you would investigate the exact needs of that town, right? Number 2, you would, within a year, meet those needs. Number 3, get 5 other people involved to help support this. Number 4, come up with an exact dollar amount that it would take. You can see, so I got this organization to go into that town to build the well. You call them up and they say, for $5,000, we'll build a well. So you say, by April 13th, 2019, I will have $5,000 committed to that city with the help of Ann so-and-so who runs that charity to have that done. And I'll feel great about it. And what's the next parameter? The next parameter is then by May, I'm looking for the next town I could help, or if that's your thing, right? So you keep going and saying, what are my parameters? It's as simple as going back down to, I declare that I'll have chocolate chip cookies baked for Dad for Father's Day tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. The parameters are, they need a car. The second one is money, $20. The third parameter is 24-hour store to go buy the chocolate. Fourth is a bag of chocolate chips, flour, sugar, butter. Okay, the next parameter is oven set at 350. What do you need to bake the cookies? Why do they want to bake these cookies, right? Dad asked for them. His favorite item. It's something that we show him that we care. It's something from our heart. It's something that he appreciates greatly. It's his favorite thing to eat. He remembers us in our childhood when he eats these cookies. Okay. That's the why. And then you give a gratitude message. Thank you, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit for 24-hour stores and for my father and for each other, the 3 girls baking together. And that then shows you how to make one thing happen. So the example in there is as simple as the jacket I bought my sister for Christmas, and it's that it needed sleeves and it needed a hood and it needed to be waterproof and it needed to be woman's, and it needed to be purple, and it needed to be hip length, and it needed to have a liner, and those were all the things she wanted. And then why? Because I want to give her the gift she wants. That was my why, and I love giving good gifts. All right, there's also goals for the year page. Now we're into the second journal. The second journal is called Inspiration Notebook, and this book stays more for your monthly, your weekly, your annual stuff. And this book you start with the gratitude and blessings for the month. And you have your monthly goals, a section for monthly goals. These are your gains, successes, and miracles. Remember, we're always collecting our gains and our successes. Why? Because literally the 110,000-mile green Ford Escort, it took me 10 years to get the gain at the end. And there's more to the story, because on the way home, prior to going to the YMCA, people rolled down their window behind me, and said, please, lady, sell me your car. I need your car. Please sell me. And I'm thinking, what is going on? This is a Ford Escort. Who wants to buy a Ford Escort? Like, how weird is that, Hattie, right?
Yeah.
A 10-year-old, 110,000 mile Ford Escort. These 3 young men said, please, they begged me to buy me the car 2 hours before it didn't work. If they would have had the car, it would be working, correct? Because I declared that when I have the car at 110,000 miles, it's done. For me. Pretty wild stuff, huh?
Yeah.
So then we have January, and then we have days. So day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of January. This journal is able to be started anytime during the year. It's an annual journal. It has a nice little message of every day, and it just has blanks for every day. This is a true journal. This is a place where you can tape in business cards. You can tape in what you did that day. You can say, I woke up and I was inspired today to be the president of blah, blah, blah association. And now you write that in. I am the president of this association today. You can wake up and say, my dreams were da-da-da. You could take that little space and meditate. The real desire for this book on a daily basis is that when you check off your box, I meditated or stayed quiet for 15 minutes, you leave this journal open next to you, and any thought that comes when you're sitting quietly, any weird, great, wondrous thought, you write it down, because that's an inspired thought. And if the first thought after we sit quietly for 15 minutes that enters our head, that's the God thought. And it could say, remodel my house. And you just say, I just remodeled the house. The idea is, if some big thought came to you that said, remodel your house again, then write it down. And then later we'll see what actions are coming towards it. The idea is, where do we write all these inspired thoughts down? And that's what this is for. This is a place to write down your inspired, wild, cool thoughts. This is the place that every day, like instead of the paper sitting by the side of your bed I was mentioning before, this would be the book sitting beside your bed that's just open, and there's note pages in the back, and there's gratitude in the front, and it's got little lessons in every chapter. They're one-page lessons from the book. So this becomes the catch-all book, and this is kind of the planning book. And the other one is your daily asking.
Okay. Cool.
Is a daily thing. It's like Sylvie's saying, the phone rings, this, that, I tape in every day in my daily book, I tape in a business card of where I went that day, or the person I met with that day, or something. So there's a picture or a card or a sticker taped on every single page of my journal, and in the back, the note section has any scraps of paper. So like that whole big thing you've been developing on the side of your bed, this piece of paper, you would tape that whole paper right in the back of your book. Around, they all get taped or stuck right into the book. I tape them in. I want them there. One time I might go back for them and say, oh yeah, that was that thought I had when I was out at a restaurant that night. I can tell you exactly what this is.
Yeah, it's just an organized record.
Yeah, and so then I write on the spine in black marker and Sharpie the year, and then I keep all those journals lined up on the shelf. And then what I do, Hattie, since I'm me, every New Year's, I take my journals from 10 years prior, the 10-year mark, and I read them again.
What have you found from that experience?
That every single thing has always come true.
Wow.
Every single line has come true. I wrote for 3 girls. I have 3 daughters. I wrote for a certain husband. I wrote for wealth. I wrote a whole page. I read a page on everybody. I had a whole page on my husband before I met him. I journaled everything before it ever happened, always. And that's why I'm here as the one saying to people, I'm here to tell you, we're creating all of this. We're co-creators with God. We're creating our little part. He created the universe. He created the breath of life. He created us, and we're creating our path. He has his will in our life, and he always wants to hear what we have to say. And then when we pray to align our wills with his, that really is exciting to him. Then great things can happen. So it's not saying that his will is our will. It's like align our wills. Let's do something together, God. Let's do things, you know what? So these little journals, Hattie, these little journals show God what makes us happy, right? Like Sylvie said, a million true millionaire, what is that, right? Only the 6 of us know what that is at this present moment. But God knows it's important to the 6 of us now because we wrote it down and we declared it and we called it out. And now he's saying, oh gosh, we better keep putting some little energy into this MTM thing that they're doing. Sounds good to me. It's going to be a Christian-based organization. He's happy about that. It's going to be good people saying good things and loving on each other. Oh, they're going to have love. They're going to have community. They're going to have growth. They're going to have wealth, health, and happiness. Sounds good to God, right? So what's fun is he now knows our heart because we put all these plans down. And now we can say, hey, God, if this sounds good to you, bring it on. Bring more of it. Grow it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful when you have it journaled. And I'm here to say that the way my husband got all his finance too is because he writes it down. He writes spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets. He is typing on his computer 12 hours a day, every day, and writing. Handwritten, every day he's got his full legal pad full of his little pencil notes. And every meeting he has ever attended, ever, and that's tons of corporations, he goes in with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. Every single meeting, every day. That's why you always, for me, I'm always carrying a journal. I tape everything in. I've got my pens. I've got paper with me. There's papers everywhere. When you write it down, you bring it into this reality, into this world, into this dimension. And that's so valuable to bring it into this dimension. So I just suggest that I know, and I ask you, think of the richest people you know. Do they journal? Do they write? Do they record? Do they take out a pen when you're talking about ideas and jot it on paper with you, like draw pictures or whatever? Are they reaching for their pad of paper and their pen often? I mean, you know a lot of rich people, Hattie. Are they?
I think even if they're, I know some people who can engage in a discussion, and I think even if they're not necessarily writing it down, they're at least recording it mentally.
And do you think that when they get home and they're explaining it to the next person, they'll take out a piece of paper and draw a picture or a graph or a diagram or put some numbers down or say, let's run some numbers or, yeah.
But if you watch the news or anything, all the big leaders of every country, they have people around them with pieces of paper and their blogs, and they're recording every little things what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it
makes sense.
Yeah, there's just something about bringing it. So when you think of a corporation, the only time in a corporation that something gets put into existence is in a board meeting when it's all been written down, recorded, somebody's seconded the motion, and now it becomes the new thing. And why are we still doing that all these years later? Because that's the way the universe was set up. And that's why the Bible is written down and is still around. It's God's writing. It's still around. So writing lasts 2,000 years. That it's proven. And what he left us is words, all written down. So when we get serious about, so he wrote his Bible, right? God wrote his Bible. He loves each of our lives just as much, and our little journals become our little, I want to say, Bible, just to let God know what's on our heart that day, that month, that year. And really, all the askings are to God. Yeah. So it's all, we're done. So all in the group, the four of us who are of Christ, the God trading becomes the most important thought here. God trading is, it's all, you put this all in front of him. These journals are written by you, for you and God. All the askings are to God. And since he owns the universe, he can do it however he wishes, and it's free. So when you write down that you're going to create this well for these people in Africa, it's not costing anybody any money. God already owns the well. He owns the land. He owns the water. Now you're just intending for there to be purified water in that town.
Yeah.
And once you intend that, now a human being is moving molecules. That's the power that he left us. A human being has to intend that. Move the molecules.
So basically we are asking the creator, and what most people are still doing, they're asking the neighbors, they're asking their spouse, they're asking other people, when the truth is, we just ask God.
So MTM, I know that Alexander had a lot of, are they going to get value? It has nothing to do with value. It's we're asking God if he'll partner with us to allow a platform creation that could be a fun, friendly, happy growth place and love place for, and community place for all of us. And now it's between us and God. And if God and I decide to do this thing, and we get him on board, there's value there. End of story. And then if we want to play around with what we want to do, that's great. The idea is when you give it to God and you ask for God, that's God trading. So here's the difference, Hattie. If I got that emerald bracelet that washed up on the shore to my feet, part of me, if I was horse trading, would say, that bracelet came from another person's wrist. That means that another human bought it, and that means that another human, I should put an ad in the paper, and I should offer it back to another human, because it might be theirs, right? Mm-hmm. God trading is, God owns all the emeralds in this whole universe. He owns all the gold in this whole universe. There was never a person, didn't come off anybody else. It came directly from God for the purpose of reminding me as I go around the world of Emerald Isle, that he put me in this beautiful house, in this beautiful spot, for this beautiful moment, for this beautiful purpose. Now, there's where your mind has to say, do I believe that that bracelet happened to be created in that moment? Or do I believe God didn't make that bracelet?
That is definitely a tough one for me.
Mm-hmm. And it's because we're all horse traders, Hattie. Hattie worked hard for the A, so Hattie gets the A. Versus, God, give me the A's. God, thank you for the A's. Interesting, huh? Mm-hmm. So why I talk about that pink hairbrush, even though it's just a little funny story, right? Think about it. There's no way that anybody knew that I needed a hairbrush. And it wasn't just a hairbrush. It was a wet brush. And while I was looking for the hairbrush, in the back of the rental car, it had a black interior and the brush was black. And I said, gosh, it's a little interesting to try to find a black hairbrush in a black car. So I was thinking, if the brush would be a lighter color, right, I could see it faster. So when I got in the door, the words that came out of my daughter's mouth were, Mom, hello, happy Mother's Day. She said, we got you a pink hairbrush so you could see it better. Okay, so is God accurate or is he super accurate?
I mean, that's intensely accurate.
That's the God we serve. So you and I have in every moment an opportunity to horse trade or to God trade. So here's another example, Hattie. So you worked so nice and hard for your A's, right, and did all the papers. So my oldest daughter went to college, and she took a test, and she brought the test home accidentally because the professor was already walking out the door, and she was talking to another student, And so when my daughter got home, it was her first semester in college, and she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, I brought the exam home. And immediately you freak out, right? Like, oh my gosh. And I said, okay, let's just sit down and take 3 deep breaths. And let's say one thing. Does God need a piece of paper, Hattie, to give you an A?
No.
So I said to my daughter, guess what we're going to do with this test? Nothing. We're going to declare what we want the outcome to be. So I said to her, let's write on a piece of paper right now exact words. And the exact words are that our desire is 100% in the grade book. Now think of how weird that is, because I don't even know if there is such thing as grade books anymore. They probably do it all online. So my daughter writes down, my only belief with hers is that the teacher's going to write 100% in the grade book with her hands. Okay? Okay, the professor. So now 2 weeks goes by. Professor hands all the tests back, looks at my daughter and says, Maddie, I didn't get your exam, but you're the best student in my class, and so I put 100% in the grade book.
Wow.
Now look at the exact words. The fantastic part is my exact written words came out of the mouth of the professor.
Yeah.
So now you can say, does Carissa God trade or horse trade? I God trade. I God trade, and the exact words come back to me that I write down all the time from different sources. So now public, so you can go look it up online because it's a public company, so it has to be documented. So here my husband walks out with a $500,000 bonus check at his own company when the guy below him gets $100,000. Because when we declare it, what does the universe have to do? Answer. How accurate does it have to be? 100%.
I assume very accurate, yeah.
Yeah, because God made a what kind of universe? An accurate universe. So the difference is Carissa God trades and a lot of people horse trade. Okay, so did I ask the company for that money? Did I call the CEO and say, could you write him a check? Or did I call the CFO? Or did I call anybody? Who did I call for the $500,000, Hattie?
God.
Yeah, and only one place. So these journals are between you and God. And when you hold it there, all is possible. So when we went, here's a great story, and I just want you to see what God trading can do for you, Hattie. So my daughter, all the kids are freaking out. It's her 3rd year of college, and they're in Georgia. And before they leave the university, you got to get an apartment. You got to get an apartment all squared away for next when you come back. And I looked at my daughter and I said, Maddie, we will go. Let them all do their own little freak out thing because they're all horse trading. And I said, we will go one day when you're ready to get your apartment because I prefer to keep my money in my pocket all summer versus pay it and not be there. I said, we will go and we will sit down and we will do what to an apartment? Create apartment. So Hattie, is anything there before you create it? I'm just asking you this question. No. Everything only shows up when you do what? Create it. You're either in creation power with God. So God owns everything. Do you think he has a storehouse of shit, or does he leave it in molecules?
Molecules, presumably.
Yes. Come on, let's be real. He's floating around up in heaven there. Okay. So all he's saying is you can turn this beautiful golden molecules into anything you wish if you get determined enough to start asking for it and writing it down and perfecting your thought process and giving up horse trading and going for God trading. So we showed up in Georgia 1 week before school starts. And I say, okay, Maddie, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to have total fun. Tell me your favorite building in Savannah, Georgia, and let's go there. This is Purple House she loves. So we go right to the Purple House, and we stand at the porch and look at it and all that, and look at the plants and the things they have on the porch. And I said, oh, this is so wonderful. I said, now it's going to go, we got to write. We're going to grab a piece of paper out to make this happen. We got to create it. It doesn't exist till we create it, right? So I say, let's go to your favorite coffee shop, and it's 2 doors down from the Purple House, and we sit outside at the coffee shop in the back little porch, and now we're on the same, we happen to be now on the same alley, sitting looking over the alley that she ends up getting the apartment on. And I said, okay, let's just take out the piece of paper. What's your favorite part of Georgia? The Purple House. Let's start with that, Purple House. What's the second thing? Coffee shop. You love this coffee shop. Coffee shop. Third thing, health food store, which is touching the coffee shop next door. You love your health food store. Great. I said, now I'm going to add something in. I want you to be able to walk joyfully outside because the neighborhoods are really bizarre there. And so when she was in the dorms, you couldn't walk at night. So I said, they have this huge, beautiful park, like Central Park there. It's called Fullerton Park or something. So I said, great. Let's say that you have the park to walk in, and the other kids lay out and get suntans and stuff in the park, so you can go and do things in the park. Let's write down park. Then you want to live alone, so let's write down beautiful apartment. And then I say, we looked at a few older things, and I said, oh gosh, new construction. And in Georgia, that's a big, tall order because it's all by law that you have to keep the old boards and the old junk because it's so, Savannah, Georgia, historic, right? So I said, oh, new construction, God. I said, clean bathroom, new appliances, decent place, that it's nice. And I'm going to use this word there because it just in a great landlord and a neat environment. And then I wrote down, so she can walk alone. And she needed parking for her car, so I wrote car parking available for her. And then I said, hey, let's even get more sophisticated. Let's write down garage. So I said, wonderful, a garage. Let's write that down. And then light, lots of windows. We wrote down lots of windows. And then we wrote down the rent price. The rent was $1,000 a month. And then I said, oh gosh, 10-month lease, because you only in school 10 months. So let's write 10-month lease. She was planning on spending the summer in North Carolina with us, which she did. So I wrote down 10-month lease. So I said, okay, God, I'm God trading. Here you go. I said, so now my little 5 things I can do is I can dial a phone, right? My 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today. I can have a cup of tea at the coffee shop. I can dial the phone. So we're walking down to the coffee shop, and I went and I looked at some of the neat looking buildings on the outside, and there I saw a realty company. Georgia's something that I've only been a few times. So there's Mopper Property Management. I see on some signs outside, some really expensive places. So I said, wonderful. I like expensive places. So I dial Mopper Property Managers, right? And I call them up and I say, hello, my name is Carissa. I'd like a call back. I'm looking for, and I read my paper, right? Now I'm writing it to this isn't even a person. This is some answer machine or whatever. I would like, and so I read the paper out loud, and this lady calls me back 5 minutes later and says, there's something that sounds just like what you're looking for. She says, I think the guy's out of the place already. You can go at 5 o'clock and look at it. I said, well, give me the address because we're sitting at this coffee shop at this address. And so I didn't even have to get in the car, Hattie, because remember, I wanted it to be by the coffee shop, looking at the Purple House. So in the backyard of the Purple House is an alley, and across the alley is where she lived.
Wow.
So then I signed a 12-month lease, Hattie, right? And now I'm up to God. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm a God trader. I said, God, on the 9th month, on the 15th day, I said, okay, God, how are you going to make the 10-month lease happen out of this? The realtor calls me back, and she says, I have a renter for the apartment. Would you like to get out of your lease? I said, absolutely. The 1st, correct? She says, yes, they'll take it on the 1st. That was the 10-month mark.
Perfect.
So do you see how perfect the universe is, Hattie, when you're God trading?
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah, and that's my whole life, Hattie. I'm giving you a few little stories. We can go on and on for, months and months like this. So when you understand that if you were to write over every stock price and every bank account, and if you were to write over every intention you have for everything, so let's just take it for the truth. This trip around the world that I'm about to go on, how did it begin, Hattie? I thought the thought, right? I had fun with my husband and I went for a walk. We just started saying, hey, what if we go around the world? Where would you go? Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And we're taking a 2-mile hike and we're just talking. And basically then it started with a phone call, and then it started with looking at some things online, and the dream became a reality. We started writing things down and getting people involved, and a year later, here's this trip around the world, first class, having a blast. It all just starts though, and it starts. And when you're God trading, it's yet to begin. It's yet to begin. Now when I say, okay, God, I did my little fun. Now you put your blessing on it. Can you imagine what it's going to turn out to be like?
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger than anything that I can even picture sitting here in this chair in this moment. So God does all your parameters, and then if you God trade, he'll even put his parameters on. And that's when it gets miraculous. Like the guy's asking me desperately to buy my Ford Escort 1 mile from my house at the stoplight. Yeah. So God will always come in, and every parameter. So the garage was there. My daughter's apartment was on top of the garage, Hattie. The interesting thing is I had to write the car goes in the garage. She parked next to the garage. Do you see? So because I left one detail out, the universe handled it all. Her apartment was above a garage. And the washer and dryer that I wrote down was in the garage. The idea was I didn't write her car goes in the garage. I wrote down she needs parking for her car.
Yeah.
So she had parking for her car outside the garage. It's what's fun now is for me to laugh and say, next time I know I can even do more detail. That's why these 2 journals, you say, why 2 journals? Boy, the universe is so accurate. The more detail you can tape in, more pictures, more thoughts, more mail, more business cards, more whatever it is, the more. So when everybody laughed at me when I told them about my husband's stock price being $13.17 when it was $8, and they all laughed at me and said, what are you publicly saying that, it's a public company. It's $1 billion company. So when everybody's saying, well, what do you mean you're directing the stock price there? Well, all summer long, that stock price was just where I said it would be. All summer long. And they all laughed. And I sat in the board meeting, or the shareholders meeting, right? So I sat at the public shareholders meeting where they did their little dog and pony show. And I sat there, and it was that in the meeting, it hit $12. And I said, just wait, $13.17. I stood up in front of everybody there in the company. And I said, $13.17, when it hits that number, then you call me. 3 days later. Yeah, 3 days later. So when you can declare it, when you can call it in, it can happen. Molecules are sitting there in the storehouse of abundance. That's what the Bible says. So much that you can't even build a barn for it, God said. You cannot contain the abundance of God. You can order up your exact slice of pizza every time.
And he wishes to open the floodgates.
Yep, that's what it says. And he wishes to open the floodgates to each of us. How do you open the floodgates? You write it down. You think the thought, you speak the word, you write it down. Preferably in the opposite order. You think the thought, you write it down, and then you speak the word. And you understand that through the book, Ask and You Shall Receive.
Yeah, ask, seek, and knock.
Mm-hmm. And you write it down so you can edit it. And that editing becomes everything. It gets clarity, right? Car in the garage. Sell the car before the 110,000 miles if you said you're going to sell it at 110,000 miles. So do you mean our word lasts 10 years? Well, sure, I proved it. We declare something 10 years before, in one ear, out the other, in one mouth, out the other. And here it is, on the day, back at me.
Yeah.
All right, so now I understand how important my own words are. That's why I jot them down, and that's why I go back and read them again. So I had 2 jet skis that my husband bought, and they were in the garage. You know, we used them for 5 years diligently with the kids, and then the kids are now older, and so he's just sold them. And I laughed, and I said, okay, I'm going to go back through all my journals till I find where the heck I ordered jet skis. 17 years ago, Hattie, I found the journal. It said jet skis. Okay, I forgot, right? But my pen wrote it down.
Yeah.
I knew my pen had to have written it if they're in my garage.
That reminds me of when I first started working remotely. I happened to just go through some old emails, and I found an email that I wrote to myself that said, I want to create a lifestyle in which I can work and travel around the world. And 4 years, that was 4 years ago, and I'd completely forgotten about it. I've kind of forgotten about that goal, at least on a conscious level. And then I realized, like, wow,
Yep.
I have just created this goal that I wrote down 4 years ago.
Right, right. The whole universe has helped you. So you see, that's why one of the steps when we say is forget about it. Because look how fun it was. When you forgot about it, you know you were God trading, right? Because you really didn't do anything about it consciously. Yeah, you went to your school, you did your day, you did your 5 things every day, right? The idea is that, wow, God trading is something completely different than horse trading. It happened just because you said it would. Right? Then if you really...
So after you... Yeah, go ahead.
So that's the fun, right? You hardly even thought about it.
Yeah. What about the idea of keeping to work on, keeping focused on your goal, though?
All right. So keeping focused on your goal is just so you have the target. The reason we write it down is so that you have a target. So do you remember when we were on the idea with Alexander and Lanka, and the reason when he was saying I'm going to increase sales because they had lost a couple of their sales, my prayer for them was definitely not just for sales and clients, although I did pray that they would have good clients and things come in. My prayer is that he raises the bar to his own asking, and that we all then can put our askings into this awesome company that they have, that lots of revenue flows in all different streams, not just sales. Right? So there's all kinds of good financial things that make a company. There's investments. There's, like he said, he got tax return money in there. So that wasn't sales. The tax return money was not sales. He got a new client that was going to help him with some other division. So the good thing was I wanted the whole company and his whole finances to better, not just sales. Sales would have just been too minor. Sales. So when you're going back to what's the goal, remember when he opened the goal up to a legacy company that he's creating where everything's working great and that they'll leave it beyond them and whatever his thing is, many major corporation contracts we talked about, not just sales. We talked about how many international contracts he wanted, how many local contracts, how many small contracts, how many big contracts, and then that big company contacted him again. So the idea was talking about big corporations, small corporations, all corporations, all ways of money flowing in. The joy is the target. I was just changing his golf swing a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's the Anthony Robbins, the change your golf swing a little bit. So the focus is important. The idea is if you'd like to say, okay, that's my focus, then that helps you, great. The idea is once the universe knows your focus, it's on there. It's like honed in, like, radar. Mm-hmm. It's already there. And the more you practice being a God trader, the more the universe knows that you're in the God Trader League. and no longer are you of this world. So Hattie, I'm not of this world. You can see that, right?
Yeah.
Do you think I listen to one CEO or one CFO or one operations manager that's going to say there's no way the stock price is going to get there in 3 days? Because we didn't buy a company or sell a company or nothing's happened different from Monday to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I listen to anybody on this earth for anything I do?
Not really.
You got it.
They're not necessarily going to be accurate.
Right. So then 10 months later, I went to that realtor, right, that broker for the apartment for my daughter, and I said, could you please tell me the story of how I got the apartment? Right now, I want to hear her side, right? Because I'm only telling you my side. So I said, could you please tell me your side? I want to see how God did it, right, with the whole universe. And she said, well, you called me up, I can remember this, and you left me a message on that you have a daughter that would like to do da-da-da-da-da and have this da-da-da. And then she said, and so I immediately thought of this one apartment that sounded like what you wanted, and it wasn't clean. Now, when I saw it that night, she came at 5 o'clock to open the door to show it to me. It was not clean. The guy his lease was up in September 1st, the day I want the apartment, but he happened to have already been out 2 weeks before. And it was dirty and dusty. Everything was out, it was empty, and it was dirty and dusty, although it's, 2008 construction. Remember what I wrote down? So it's a brand new place. The lady her husband, right before he had just passed away, he built this apartment up on the garage 3 years prior or whatever. The house was 2008 construction. So I'm like, and I said to the lady when I met the owner, I said, how did you get them to allow you to put a whole new house in this old neighborhood, And so she said, well, we got it, da-da-da. It says 2008. I had no idea about any of that till I met the lady months later. So she was just saying, and he happened to be out, and so I just immediately thought, this is the right one. So then, Hattie, the rent was $1,100, and I wrote down 1,000. So I said to God, well, God, I said 1,000. What's the 1,100 about? 3 seconds later, the realtor calls me and says the electric's included.
Oh, sweet.
But you see, God made up for the 100. Mm-hmm. So is it the realtor who's really calling me back, or is it really God calling me back saying, hey, Kate lady, I'll put the electric in there and we're even, right?
Yeah.
So every detail, when you keep in your dream with God, he answers. Every detail. And when I walk, that's why I know with certainty Million True Millionaires is a success. Because who am I calling on to make it a success?
God.
That's it. And only one thing, God. And it's fun to play with Hattie and Brian, and it's fun to play with Alexander and Lanka. And it's fun to play with Sylvie. The fact is, there's only one place I'm trading. Then it's with God. And every deal I make, every minute of the day. Remember, my list is go out to lunch, and his list is make $1 million company.
Yeah.
Okay? So with my children, so my middle daughter's the same way. Let's say papers are due at midnight and blah, blah, blah. And they want to turn them in at 3 a.m. Who's in charge of everything? God. So I say to my kids, turn it in at 3 a.m, right? Until God, his paper's coming at 3 a.m. The professor is only going to be in line with what God does, because the whole universe is owned by God. So man makes all kinds of little parameters, because we have fun with our 5 little things on our sticky notes, and we can say everything's due at midnight or whatever. And the bottom line is, okay, they have the right to do their co-creation. The fact is, though, I'm God trading, and God can override everything. Every rule, every place, every regulation, every no, you can't have your full security deposit back. Oh, yes, God can make anything happen. He can give you your full security back. If you get half your security back, the only difference is you believe that you should only have half your security back. And you're horse trading. You're listening to a man tell you that. Mm-hmm. Remember, you shall be in this world, but of the godly world. If you wish to God trade, you have the power to be above. You have the power to be a God trader. I was born only knowing God trading. I was born in some kind of bubble, time warp, whatever you want to call it. and I never did the other. And I'll use that word never. So far in this entire existence, I'm 54 years old, I only knew that God trading existed. I really couldn't do what other people do. I'm not quite sure how they do that horse trading thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a husband who...
That's a cool place to be.
Well, it's definitely mighty different than most people, and I love it because it's mighty. And I that's one of the reasons that my kids are homeschooled. In any kind of system, God trading is pushed aside, and man takes over with his rules.
Yeah.
And that is why you see me in the back of the room at a JT Fox convention, because it's a JT Fox system. And a God trader in a horse trading environment is, all I could do is laugh and roll on the ground, really, and go out to breakfast. I went out to breakfast and lunch and dinner 16 times a day. I was in so many restaurants there.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made our own conference there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was a God trading conference. All my conferences are only God traders. And so the fun was, okay, God, anywhere we are, can we make something great happen? Of course we can, because he still owns the room. He still owns the land. He still owns everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the fun, right. The best thing was when he said, who will be coming back next year? And I just had a laugh for me. Oh. It's interesting. I wonder if he's going to do it without his other guy.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. It's his
Yeah,
playground. It will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go on your 300 days around the world trip.
Right.
JT Fox go to Anaheim, Disney to make his happiness.
That's right. It's all good.
And I have my Naples happiness.
Right.
And Hardy has his Orlando happiness.
That's right. That's right. So anyways, it's something to think about. It's something to think, how is our mind programmed? Is it God trading or horse trading in every moment?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. This has been really useful.
Yeah. That's how it's been done. Now you got the story of my life.